Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers were, a couple of days away, honestly, at this point. And what's interesting is that if you look at Kendrick's resume, he has two undeniable classics in Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp a Butterfly. Then he has two debatable classics with Section 80 and Damn. So now the question is, could he do it again after taking so much time off? And at this point, it has been 5 years. Damn came out in 2017. And since then, he's been active, but he hasn't been that active. I mean, you take it to 2018, of course, he curated on the Black Panther soundtrack, appeared on 5 songs there. And since then, he's only given us about 10 features, including most recently his contributions to Baby Keem's The Melodic Blue, where he was featured on Family Ties, Range Brothers, and Vent. But we know that, for an artist in any craft, when you're practicing, that's super important to acquire a new skill, to maintain your current skill set, or to even improve upon your skills. But the question is now, has Kendrick taken time away from the booth? And if so, how is that going to affect the album's quality?
Well, I don't see it affecting the album's quality, because even going back to the Melodic Blue verses, those are fantastic verses, regardless of the style that he's rapping in or not. If you actually look at the way that they were delivered, if you look at the writing in it, if you looked at the punchlines, how much emphasis and impact there was behind those verses, it was beautiful, And not only that, but I feel as if a big thing with Kendrick Lamar's music is when those verses dropped, they were major talking points for a good portion of the last half of 2021.
But those are a couple of verses, and I feel like no matter how skilled or well-versed Kendrick is as a rapper, for anyone to take time off of their craft, it's difficult to kind of make a grand return. Even to bring in a sports analogy, take it to Michael Jordan when he retired in 99 and came back in 2001 to play with the Wizards. He didn't have necessarily the glorious comeback that everybody expected
Very
him
different
to.
situation,
and
because Kendrick still
he didn't have the same
disagree.
speed. He was putting up some games 50 points, other games less than 10 points.
I get the analogy. You don't have to go any further. What I'm saying is that that's completely different than the situation that we're in right now.
Okay, so now let's take it to hip-hop then. Jay-Z and Nas, all right?
Okay.
When Jay-Z retired in 2003 with the Black Album, came back 3 years later with Kingdom Come, and it was viewed as his worst album. Same thing with someone like Nas, where he drops Life is Good in 2012, very critically acclaimed. All the fans loved it. Comes back in 2018 with Nasir, and as much as I love that album, the public didn't really, gravitate as much towards it. So I feel like with any artist, it's difficult to kind of make such a huge entrance when you're spending that much time away. But at the end of the day, it is Kendrick. We know what he's capable of. But again, there's no certainty that he'll be able to kind of keep that peak form alive.
No, absolutely. But I mean, if you had to really put your money on it, I guarantee you that you would be putting your money on the fact that he's delivering a quality album. And I know there's going to be a lot of conversations about the different type of style or whatever else he's going to be bringing into the album. That's completely different than we had gotten on Damn, To Butterfly, and GKMC. What I'm saying, though, is that regardless of the type of styles that he's bringing in, I think it will still be delivered to a T, because that's what he's been giving us his whole career. And going back to the other analogies you had made, Jay-Z, yes, he obviously came back and Kingdom Come wasn't his best album, but I mean, this Kendrick situation is different because he never really officially retired. I mean, the guy just took some time off from music.
Fucking break,
but not only that, but you could also see it in the way where artists need time to be able to curate and they need time to be able to gain creativity. So would you want Kendrick coming back 2 years in and then after that delivers us maybe an album that's not up to par because he didn't take time with it? Or would you rather him wait that 5 years?
Well, I think 2 years is a lot of time. That's how much time you needed to make
Damn.
Damn.
But you're not Kendrick, you know what I'm trying to say?
But on the other flip side of the coin, I will argue that, for all we know, Kendrick has spent these 5 years to craft the best album of his career. Think about how much preparation and how much time he spent trying to execute this new sound. And we know that for at least 2 years he's been working on this, because we saw in 2020 there was images surfacing of him doing a music video shoot. So we know there's been a lot of time that's gone into this, but I still think that once this album comes out, people are going to be super critical because of how much time we waited. So I feel like people are going to either hail it an instant classic or start calling it mid off the jump.
That's their problem. At that point, don't go listen to the album.
No, I know. I'm just talking about how I think everybody's going to kind of take the music when it comes.
I'm going into the album in a different mindset, though, because I want to hear what's been happening in the past 5 years. And if he could deliver on that, with Kendrick Lamar, status and quo, and just, do his thing and keep it up to that standard, fuck it, I guarantee you, you're getting an album of the year. That's what I think everyone has to realize. You know, fuck what's being presented to you. Just understand how it's going to be executed and how it's going to be executed better than anyone else, let's say right now, that are trying to bring in new sounds
which
or new
which
things.
we don't know about yet. But speaking about what could be coming, which kind of poses maybe another issue potentially for this being a classic, is the new style that he could be attempting, which of course was infamous on a song like Family Ties and Range Brothers, where
Infamous. You think
we saw
infamous?
him experimenting vocally. And that's when we had deliveries for lines like Amazing Brother or Top of the Morning, where it was kind of the most playful I think we've ever seen Kendrick. And he's known for doing these voices. But if we're hearing verses that are filled with repetitive lines like, let's get this shit, let's get this shit, let's get this shit, I'm sorry, but I'm going to be getting that shit off of my speakers. To be 100% honest with you, I think that was cool as a feature. But if we're getting 15 tracks filled with that playfulness, where Kendrick isn't really bringing up the lyrics that much, and he's kind of just, I wouldn't say fucking around, but being a bit too playful for comedic value, I don't know if I'll be into that, to be honest with you. You look stunned right now. What are you saying?
It sounds like you have a bunch of expectations going in behind this album. I think that maybe
I think everybody has expectations going in,
I
and
get
I think
you,
that
I get
I'm
you,
saying
but
I think everybody has that on their mind right now. Is this style that he's showcasing going to be present on all the music?
listen, I doubt you're going to get Kendrick Lamar's music off your fucking speaker. You're going to go and bump it. But I think that when you got to look at the way he's going to deliver it, don't go in with those expectations. Because even the Top of the Morning stuff, that was still a major talking point. And Range Brothers is still a great song, regardless of the way we want to talk about it. And even looking at Kendrick, like, he always presents these new ideas and these forward-thinking flows and different ways to attack music. So I think that even if we go in and it's super quirky, I guarantee you, we're going to look back on it in 2 years and we're going to be like, that's fucking advanced, because that's what's happened with each and every single one of his albums. It's like going to the finals and expecting Michael Jordan to lose. You know what I'm trying to say? Like,
I'm not expecting him to lose, man. I'm saying that that's a concern that a lot of people are having, myself included, is that I don't mind that quirky style for a couple of verses, but if I'm getting a whole album of that, I won't be happy. And listen, Kendrick has always been
Do you
open.
genuinely think that would happen, though?
It's possible. That's why I'm entertaining it right now. And listen, Kendrick has always been open to experimentation, and I feel like, yes, if someone could kind of, try out a voice like this and make it work, it would be him. But to me, I feel like the only value you're getting out of that kind of quirky delivery is a comedic value. And at the end of the day, like with other Kendrick voices that we've heard, for example, the crying voice on a song like You, there was meaning behind that. He was miserable throughout that entire track because of the emotions he was running through. Same thing with a song like Institutionalized, where he has that higher pitch that kind of sounds like Gollum from Lord of the Rings.
I get
There's
you.
a purpose behind that because he's rapping from the perspective of being in Compton when he was
That's
younger.
past material. That's material.
Can I
that
finish
came
my
out
thought, though?
Yeah, you've been talking for a minute now, and all I hear is these expectations about past material. Like, go in with this with a different mindset, because, I mean, listen, even if he does deliver that, like, dude, go 2 years in, man. Like, you're gonna see how this album will age if it is different and quirky.
I know, but
like,
we're talking about what we're gonna get right now and what our expectations are. That's the whole point of the video.
I'm saying though, like, if your expectations is to get like you crying voices and like the Art of Pure Pressure,
that's not
for, like,
what I'm
15
saying.
tracks
I'm
straight,
saying
you're gonna
that
be left disappointed.
when I've heard a Kendrick voice before, they were executed with authenticity and they played into his
so
emotions.
Range Brothers was not authentic.
No, it felt like it was just for comedic value to me.
I doubt that. No,
What was the purpose or meaning behind that voice? To you?
Whatever creative vision he wanted to put out there.
Okay,
I mean, even if
but
it
you
was,
can't pinpoint it, right?
Well, I mean, listen, regardless if I have to pinpoint it or not, it's still something that he wanted to experiment and try with. You're talking about a guy that has delivered Pulitzer Prize level albums, and if that's the creative vision going forward, I will have to witness it and judge it over a period of time. Like, even Range Brothers, I didn't like it at first, but I play Range Brothers at a party. Everyone's fucking with that song right now. Like,
I just totally disagree with that, bro. I'm not fucking with that song.
No, of course you're not going to fuck with it because you're expecting 12 songs of The Art of Pure Pressure. So
I never said I expected 12 songs of The Art of Pure Pressure, man. Chill out, bro.
No, but you have to go in with a bit more of an open mind, because...
How am I not going in with an open mind, though? I'm giving you my expectations, and I'm saying that if he was to go with this kind of style for 15 songs... it would get repetitive to me, and I wouldn't enjoy
15
it.
songs, though? Like,
I don't know. I'm
thing,
entertaining the possibility of it at the end of the day. I'm not saying that's what we're going to get. I'm saying if he were to do that, because that's what we've gotten from him as of late in his most recent features, I don't think everybody would gravitate towards it. But again, maybe he pulls it off in a certain way because maybe this voice is attributed to a character.
Okay, let me ask you another question then, all right? So let's say he does it in the way of the Family Ties verse. A verse which we said was top 5 of last year and that we were really convinced on. would that be a different sentiment just because of, okay, there's a new, let's say, presence behind
No,
that?
because it was minimal
delivered?
on that song. On Arrange Brothers, though, where I'm getting him saying, let's get this shit for a good 30 seconds straight, that takes away from the song. And that's a reason why I don't fuck with that song as much as Family Ties, is that I think there's too much fucking around. I don't want that for an entirety of an album because it loses the kind of deep and complex song structure that I would get from your average Kendrick Lamar song.
Okay, let's have a different conversation, all right? Like, there was a lot of different speculation of, like, when this album would come out and, like, when would it actually be released, and now we have May 13th, right? But, you know, what do you think is going to be happening with the culture shift around this? Because another thing I want to talk to you about is just where could this album place within Kendrick's catalog, and how do you see it affect music going forward, you know? Like, what's that culture shift going to actually be going
It's
forward?
very interesting because I feel like once we got that album title of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, a lot of people started asking themselves, what if this is not a rap album? And we know that Kendrick likes to challenge himself after every release. And I mean, the first thing that comes to mind when you read out that album title, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, you think of a live band from the 60s or the 70s from an old funk or soul group.
Super cool name.
Which is interesting too, because if you look at, who Kendrick sampled on Mama, it was a group called Sly and the Family Stone, which kind of plays into that same sentiment of Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. And Mr. Morale, aka Kendrick, could be the lead singer or the leader of the band, and then the Big Steppers could be the instrumentalist behind it. And what's interesting too is that if you're really thinking about it, we've seen rappers go this route before. I mean, look what Andre 3000 did on Love Below.
Mm-hmm.
He rapped his entire career with Outkast, and then Love Below comes and he's singing more than he ever has before, and really makes that the focus and vision of his songwriting process.
How would you like that?
It's interesting because Kendrick hasn't done it all that much in terms of singing. I mean, you've gotten it on songs like Untitled 08, you've gotten it on You Ain't Gotta Lie, but there was always kind of singing mixed in with rap. And to be honest with you, I'm open to him kind of branching out if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, if I'm going to hear Kendrick spitting lines like, I'm smoking on your top 5, and lines like, don't address me unless with 4 letters, I'm expecting him to do what he does best, and that's deliver a fucking rap album.
Yeah, I get you, and I think it will happen, and it will become a rap album. He's a rapper, and like I don't think that maybe it would fit the best for him, and like for what the fans' expectations are, like what people are actually wanting going into it. But talking about the whole thing of like this new sound, whatever it is, if it's a different genre, if it is rap, impacting the culture and really pushing it forward, I could see it happening this year. I mean, there's a big problem with quality control on albums lately, and a lot of people feel it, a lot of people see it, and we see it also in our comment sections, right? Like there's a lot of people that complain, let's say, about the structure of an album or whatever it is. So I think what will happen is Kendrick will come forward with this album, and it will show people once again, in order to be successful, you don't have to create, like, let's say, commercially successful albums. At least that's what I think it will be. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. What do you feel about the whole culture shift with this album?
In terms of him shifting the culture, I think 100% he's doing it.
Absolutely.
I think there's no fucking doubt about it. I think that despite all the shit I was mentioning at first about him maybe trying out this quirky style or him not being in peak form after 5 years, that was me just kind of thinking of like the flip side of things, like what are the areas that could lead to this not being a classic. But my honest opinion is that this will be a masterpiece. And when you're looking at Kendrick and his career, all he's done is shift the culture. I mean, we're talking about the guy who just performed at the Super Bowl halftime show. We're talking about a guy who's influenced artists on the caliber of Prince, Kanye West, and David Bowie. We're talking about the same guy that put out the longest charting hip-hop album of all time, then followed it up with the most critically acclaimed album of all time, and 2 years later becomes the only rapper to drop an album that gets awarded the Pulitzer Prize for music in modern mainstream times. Not only that, but this is the same artist who was passed down the torch from Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre. So how the fuck could you not expect this guy to shift the culture no matter how he does it?
Yes.
If it's with new flows, if it's going to be with him creating an album that has all live instrumentals, no matter what the vision is, I'm putting all my fucking money on the table to bet that he will do that.
So we could have avoided this whole back and forth at the beginning.
But no,
of this
bro, I was
episode,
trying to play some devil's advocate, and I was trying to bring in the points of people that might be doubting Kendrick. But at the end of the day, yes, we don't know if the 5-year wait will be a good thing or a bad thing, but at the end of the day, it's Kendrick Lamar. But this is
and
this is one of the greatest of all
I get
time.
you, absolutely, and that's the.
I had to bring up those possible problems.
I know, no, it's definitely possible concerns. But I'm saying is that like don't even have those concerns going into the album because you know you're gonna get something crazy regardless. Like that was a big thing. Is like. Kendrick's name is such a big talking point. All right. I think genuinely within the community, the two most talked about artists in rap is Kendrick Lamar and Kanye West, at least from like what I've seen out of the community.
In our community, for sure.
Like, you know, who just the culture behind it, you know, the conversations, the speculation, the following, like just the diehard fan bases. I really do see those two guys as like the forefront for at least us in our community. And what's interesting about Kendrick is like, you hear people talk about his music and like you can't like it's undeniable. The quality is always there, and regardless if you're not sold on him, let's say whatever it is, you understand what you're getting. Like,
how could you not be sold at this point?
It's like the Rolls Royce of rap, man. Like you're talking about a certain rap style that you know was never emulated, cannot be recreated even now, and no one has had the commercial success around this type of hip hop, especially when you're keeping lyricism true to your music. Like that's another big thing for me is. Kendrick's someone that has delivered quality time and time again, but still brought in the impact of selling 600,000 copies first week, still had the impact of having, you know, multi, platinum certified singles. Like, doesn't even matter at this point. You know, this guy's dominance is undeniable.
Not only that, but like if we're just looking at his batting average, he has the best in the game. I mean, he drops amazing project after amazing project. And what's cool about this new Kendrick release is the fact that it's probably going to sound unlike anything we're hearing right now in 2022, and that's something to be excited about. And look at an album like Damn, which was open to interpretation. Like, this is going to be another one of those albums where people are going to spend weeks and maybe months decoding this album, which makes it so fun as a community to be involved with it. And at the end of the day, listen, this rollout's been pretty mysterious. We haven't gotten a single. We haven't gotten many updates to the Oklahoma website. And I think that mystery is driving more excitement going into this album. And it's going to be the biggest event for hip-hop this entire year. So if you guys want to follow this rollout with us, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we'll be keeping you guys updated on everything that happens in terms of a new single, in terms of an update with the album, and so much more post-content after the album does come out, including an album review. And we're also going to be doing a live album reaction to Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers the very same night it comes out on our Patreon plan. You guys can check that out in the link to our description. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.